Today's Q&A is about Shechitos, and the question is, what's the difference between one Shechita and the next? They all seem to have reputable hashkachas on them, so was there really any difference and any preference to pick one over the other? So we start by saying that the biggest, probably the greatest improvement in hashkacha in the past 100 years probably has been in this area of Shechita. It used to be people had no idea when they were buying, so to speak, kosher meat. They could have been getting nevelas or treifas, or maybe even horses' meat. Literally, it was really very uncontrolled. And nowadays, that's changed dramatically. And the meat that's certified by reputable hashkachas is all on really high levels of Kashrus. And by and large, the meat and the chicken is all reliable and acceptable. The people who oversee these hashkachas, they know a lot, and the people who involved in the actual work, the sheichtim, the boitkim, menakrim, mashgichim, are people that have skill in Yerushalayim, and Baruch Hashem, things are way better than they were 100 years ago. Now, even so, there are differences in one shechita and the next. So one type of difference has to do with the setup of how the structure of how the place was set up. For example, how quickly does the line? Does the line move? How many animals are they shechting a minute or an hour? Do the shechtim work for really long stretches to the point that they can't concentrate anymore? Or do they get breaks? Are there enough mashgichim to cover all the areas? Is there a good way to mark the nevela when the shechita doesn't go right to make sure that it doesn't get sold as kosher? What happens when they have a treifa? How well do they segregate it to keep it separate from the other animals? And also, in a lot of these shechitas, there are many people giving hashkacha, but which of those people is actually in charge and which is just going along for the ride, so to speak? And how much Yerushalayim and experience and expertise do the rabbinic staff have that are involved in the shechita? So that's one type of difference between one shechita and the next. The second one has to do with standards. They're halacha, the standards that they follow in halacha and minhagim. The most significant is which sirchas do they accept to decide meat is a piece of beef is glat or beis yosef or not suited at all. A sircha is some kind of a mucus or something else attached to a lung, and it could make the animal not kosher. So, depending on what are their standards for deciding which meat is not kosher at all, which meat is acceptable as glad kosher, and which is the higher standard called beis yosef. Now, it happens to be there's no sirchas are allowed for lamb and veal, and sirchas is not relevant to poultry, so it's really a beef question. And in this area, each of the Rabbanim Machshirim makes the parameters for his shechita, and he decides what sirchas we accept or how many sirchas we accept, and there could be very big differences between one shechita and the next. Some other halachic minhagim type differences between one and the next is what parts of the animal do they cut out during nikkur? Which parts of the animal do they check for treifas other than the lungs? Does any meat get kasher after 3 days? Do the sheichtim have to go to the mikveh every day? Some people do it for just in general for kedusha or to have a better hakasha. How and when do they give injections into the eggs or the chickens that'll be sold as chicken? Are the tumas agidin checked for every chicken, or they just do sampling here and there, or maybe they don't check at all? And do the chickens get cut open before they do melicha to them? So those are a group of halachic type questions, and minhagim type questions are probably more. And most consumers don't have the knowledge to figure out, to decide how they want to do on each of these issues. And for that matter, even if they did, they probably, in most cases, they have no way of figuring out what's going on in the actual facility. How would they know if shechita A is doing this versus shechita B? So some people, and many people will say is, listen, I will eat what my community rabbanim allow. Those people can check into these things, and I'm counting on them to make sure that the setup and the standards are appropriate for what we want. And they find a rav who they know is involved in this and can look into this, and they choose to follow that person's lead.